a day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. We are live today with the Women's Pipeline for Change. They have an event coming up, and it just left my screen because it pops up when you go to the website womanspipeline.net. And so the Massachusetts Women of Color Coalition and the UMass Boston Center for Women in Politics and Public Policy are doing something that we already do as Black women. So as Black women, we get ish done, right? Yes. And so the Standing in Our Power, Women of Color Leading Change, civic engagement in voting form is not like kumbaya, let's sit in a circle and talk. It's actually educating, inspiring, and activating yourself at this robust conversation that together will create an agenda. And we talk about this all the time for moving forward, igniting civic engagement and bringing about positive change for communities of color. And so how many conversations have we had in the last 2 weeks and even further than that of like, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm upset, but there's no plan. Like, but what are we going to do about it? And that's exactly what the UMass I wish this thing would stay on. It pops up. You have to refresh. The Massachusetts Women of Color Coalition and the UMass Boston Center for Women in Politics and Public Policy. And so today we are live with Celia Blue and Lori. So good rising to you all. Thank you so much. And I am excited. Please tell me, like, who are the organizations and why did you partner particularly to create this event?
Do you want me first,
Celia, Celia, you might have us muted. Did you mute you?
Nope.
Nope. There you are.
All right.
There you are.
Thank you so much, Tayla. Show. By the way, I love the photo on your web. So I'm echoing on. Lori.
Yeah, Lori, we have you breaking up a little bit right now. I mean, I'm sorry, Lori. Celia, we have you breaking up right now.
Okay. Can you hear?
We can hear you, and then it cuts off.
Okay. I'll try to.
You know what, Celia? Just call me. Just call me, and we'll streamline it like that. So you could leave your video and then mute that, so we can still see your beautiful face because you are gorgeous, and I do want to keep you here.
Right. Okay.
But if you call at 617-459-0041, that's my real number. I give it out anyways. So if you know anybody looking to buy or sell real estate, anyone who needs a book as far as Finally Home is concerned. And so we'll just go ahead and introduce Lori as Celia calls me, and then I'll three-way you in.
Okay. Good.
But we still want to see your face, Celia. Is that possible? Yes. Okay, good. Lori, tell us a little bit about yourself and picking up from where Celia was leaving off regarding the organizations involved and how this particular event came about. I totally agree as far as voices needing to be heard. I think so. I took a class in college, Women in Politics, and there's a lot. That's another topic for another day. Just politics in general, and even the like theory of women in politics and what we learned in textbook versus reality. It just, I think it doesn't coincide. Like curriculum isn't true to reality at all. And so I wonder, like I nominate myself to audit your course if any seats are available. Um, oh, she's here. She's on the phone. She, can you hear me? Oh, I can hear that loud and clear. Um, so, okay. At this event, as far as putting together a plan is concerned, what does that look like, and how would this plan be implemented, if any?
Sure. So there are a few different talked about earlier on about educating and informing our community. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. And informing our communities. One of there are several pieces to us voting. First is understanding around the voter right act, what has been happening, and we want to really make sure our communities are aware about the attacks on the different things that have been happening around voter suppression laws, and what organizations like that would, they've been doing some really great work, the ACLU, around this. How can we hear what's happening? How can we help them? And then what have we been doing in our communities in terms of what does the data look like? We have MAWOCC that's going to be coming, Cheryl Clyburn Crawford, who's going to look broadly on the state and really dive into the trends and share with us, what's happening from a data perspective, because I also believe, we all believe in, we want to look at facts, right, and data. Mm-hmm. And then voter table, Beth will be sharing, going deeper dive into what it looks like in Boston and the surrounding areas and what we've been doing, and level set in, right, so that we can say, okay, what do we need to do from here? And what we need to do is have a plan on how we're going to talk to our family or friends or colleagues, and whether it's 5 people, 10 people, whatever that looks like for you, we want you to be able to develop that from this small round and go out next to. And we also have an action plan in there, policy day, which is definitely close to Lori's heart, in which we have a broader come out of there with some policy initiatives and broader action plans, and how we can work together as a community. We have 6 strategic partners. We have some great panelists that are coming in, and we want to, this is one area I think that we all have common ground and should be working more cohesively and collectively, which I think is something of an opportunity for us to do that. And that's the morning session. Then we have some trailblazing ladies in the afternoon. So, all the people to talk about on leadership. Starting with the suffrage movement, we know that this year is a big year for the suffragists, right? But we also know that Black women of color, were left out during that time. So while we want to recognize that, we also need to acknowledge the fact that, we were left out. And what do we learn from that? What does that look like now then versus now? We have an historian from Massachusetts will be talking and focusing on 3 women of color here in Massachusetts. And then we have a panel of really trailblazing women, Charlotte Gola-Ritchie. I'm sure folks you know of her. Lisa Wong, who's one of the youngest mayors in the Commonwealth, is an American woman. We also have Liz Miranda, that's on the panel that afternoon. We have Lauren Spears representing the Native American community in the museum she's running. And we also have, Mayor of Cambridge, that will be part of our panel as well. So lots and lots to talk about, and them sharing with us, what their challenges been, how they've overcome it, and what kind of support they need. We all, when we get into these spaces, there's just so many things coming at us from left to right, and it's that time for us to really have that space to talk with each other and share how powerful we are.
So what does that look like for somebody who is interested in lobbying? How much could they learn from this event by wanting to be a lobbyist or wanting to be an activist and wanting to take an idea or a concept and turn it into a bill? How much learning will be done, or is it more so, is it interactive? Is it I'm learning something while I'm here and we're going to be putting forth what we learned, or is it more so towards a lecture style?
Well, I will have to say, one of the things that was really important to us when we put this conference together, this forum together, was that we wanted to make sure that it was interactive, that we were hearing from the individuals who were participating in the forum. For all those attendees, we wanted to make sure that it was available and open for students as well as adults, people of color, our allies. So I think it's a little bit of both. We will have panels, and in our panels, for instance, the first day, we will have panels, and individuals will talk about all those areas that Celia mentioned about voter suppression, laws that are protecting the voter, how to get out the vote. But at the same time, what's really, really important for us is that we are also wanting to hear the individuals who are in our communities. So part of that conference will include a town hall morning session on voting, voter suppression, civic engagement. And that's really very, very important. So we'll get a sense of what are some of the barriers for individuals when it comes to voting. What are their concerns when it comes to civic engagement? What have they done? What else would they like to do? And what's really wonderful about that is that there will be a town hall, and as part of that town hall, we will hear voices of those individuals in our communities, and they will also have feedback coming from them from those expert panels.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is something that's really important throughout the day. There will be interactive forums where individuals can ask questions and also put forth their perspective ideas as well as their challenges and their opportunities.
So let's say, for instance, I attend and I have all of these ideas when it comes to the education space. I have ideas when it comes to parking spaces and kids with parks, and I speak to these representatives. What is the percentage of what we're actually talking about being implemented?
Well, one of the things I will have to say, we have spent time thinking about, and I'm getting back to the question you're asking about, how does this particular forum facilitate change? Well, first of all, we want to be able to highlight pretty clearly in our communities what are some key issues specifically for women of color. We'll hear that in all of our sessions. We'll hear it in our session around civic engagement. We'll hear it in our session relating to presidents and past elected officials and their perspectives on these issues. But then when we go into day 2, which I call policy day, that's when we're going to do a lot of the nitty gritty work. We will then assess what we've heard from all those who have participated, whether they be our panelists or they will be our participant audience, and get a sense of, what are some of the key issues. From there, we will also hear from leaders of organizations that address issues relating to women of color, these being our partners on this conference: Amplify, Delta, the Heron Pond, Wampanoag Tribes, the Mass Vote, Women's Pipeline for Change, and we will, and Massachusetts Voter Table will be able to get a sense of, what have been their agendas around addressing issues for women of color. That will be very important. And then what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to look at what are some of the areas that all these different organizations and entities are saying are important for women of color. And then we will move from there and go into getting a sense of, now that we know what the issues are, we need to then prioritize and then interact as part of our day 2, interact with policy leaders about what is the best strategy to move forward around a coalitional agenda for women of color. This is what we're hoping to create at this particular meeting, is a coalitional agenda for women of color, where we can say we all might have some separate needs, but we also have some needs that are in common. And how can we work together to move forward the well-being and health of women of color in this Commonwealth?
So this particular event is the start of something big, a coalition that currently does not exist for Black women politically that focuses on policy. My question prior was going to be what work has the coalition done in the past? But this is like ground floor, grassroots. If you want to be politically engaged, this is the way. This is the way to do it. What exactly, and excuse my ignorance, so some political questions, right? So even though I have a political science degree, I'm always ready and willing to learn. And so what is the difference between a coalition focused on Black women's rights, policy-wise, versus an actual lobbyist? Like how could the coalition become a lobbyist in the form of Black women's rights?
Okay, so I'll just jump in here. So there are two different things. First of all, and I am not an expert on lobbyists, but this is certainly an area that is also very interested to us at MAWOCC, which is
Color Coalition, because our board voted to have an arm that is a lobbying arm that we're working to file both from a state and federal level, because we do believe that's important. So first of all, you have to be registered to lobby. You have to have the credential of the organization to do that. And I call advocacy work and lobby work to me are a little bit different. Although, it's supposed to get to that same end, right? So for us, we're focusing right now in advocacy, where, we will, talk with our legislator once we determine what the common areas are for our broader coalition and develop a strategy. Then we would go to our legislatures that we know that this may be an area where they're also interested in, to try to see, are there other bills that have been out there? If they're not, do we need to start from scratch? And then work with them on developing a strategy, because before you can make those changes, you need to have the support from legislators, whether or not they're going to push those agenda or those priority items forward for you. So that's a little bit further along, but and I just have to say, for Massachusetts Women of Color Coalition, we are focused on women of color. We do prioritize, and we've been very clear about the fact that we are starting off by focusing on Black and Latino women because we have the most largest disparities among all groups, and we feel by focusing on us, we can then lift others up along with us, as well as our communities, as we always do. So just wanted
And
to.
so,
And I will say the day 2, we will begin that process of strategizing on day 2. And I think that's really, really important, so that when we leave, this is really important, when we leave this forum, we will have an agenda in terms of what we need to do next. This will not be a forum where you come and you listen and you go home. This is an action forum. And this is really critically important because the issues and the challenges that women of color face are absolutely urgent. And we really cannot afford at all not to address them as strongly and as firstly as we can. That's critically important. So we take this very, very seriously. I think I can speak to Celia and ourselves and our team. This is a labor of love for all of us. We spend weekends and evenings and in between whatever else we're doing to make sure that this particular forum is going to be strong and is going to be successful. So we're really wanting the participation of the community. I will have to say there's a lot of enthusiasm for this forum, an awful lot of enthusiasm. People are, emailing us, and people want to bring their students and their classes to this event. I will say that at UMass we have professors who are bringing their students to this event as well. They see this as not just an event to move issues forward, which is critically important, but we also see this as a way of educating the general public and as well as students about what are some of the key issues for women of color and what they can do as future leaders to move this forward.
So I'm looking at the flyer again. So I'm on Women's Pipeline. So women's with an S, pipeline.net. I'm here now looking at the flyer, and there's no like registration link or like where to go to sign up.
Okay, that might have been our current flyer does have a registration link, but I would love to. It is cutt.ly/our-power is the link online that you can click on.
So
But
I didn't catch. Celia, could you do me a favor? And do you have access to the chat? Do you see the chat box below?
yes, I do.
Okay, could you add that to the chat, and that will then be sent to YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook all at the same time?
That's
great.
that right now.
Oh. And so, coming from a standing in your power, I don't want to diminish the work that's currently being done, but I do wonder why in 2020, is this the first time when women have been driving political, like we've been driving policy, we've been driving votes, like this is who we are at our core without even having a designated title or an organization or 501(c) with grants and funding, but this is what we do grassroots anyways. I'm wondering, why did it take from now? Are there any other organizations that preceded what's being done now? Any balls that we can pick up so we're not reinventing wheels? Or even something that is similar in structure but out of state? Do we have any examples of this?
Well, I think one of the things I can mention, and maybe Celia can talk more about, other states or what she's seen in Massachusetts. We do have something that also inspired us, the She the People campaign. And I'm not sure how many of your viewers are familiar with She the People, and what's really wonderful, and that comes out of Washington. And the leaders got together and decided that we have candidates who were in office running for president started in terms of thinking about candidates that were running for president and sort of saying that are they accountable to the voices and the questions and concerns of women of color? And one of the things that they did last year was ask individual community members to come and ask questions to the political candidates around their concerns with women of color. This was something that was done, and the candidates had to think very clearly and be very, very forthright about their views in terms of how they were going to address the issues of women of color. Because we said at the end of the day, our votes can and will make a difference in terms of whether or not they are successful. And so this is one of the things that's really important is that, you know, the voices of women of color are heard because they do make a difference in terms of the policy process, in terms of the ideas that should be addressed in the Commonwealth and beyond.
I just put that in the chat, so hopefully that's coming through. And I'm sorry, I was focused on that, so I didn't hear your question.
Any examples of what's going on through Celia? Did we lose you?
You did for a minute because I was trying to multitask and send you that info in the
Oh, no
chat.
worries.
apologize.
No
Can you
worries. At least we can still hear you. There you are.
So what I did, I talked about She the People and how that was part of her inspiration for this meeting, and I thought you might talk about you know, some of the organizational history around, you know, MAWOCC and how they have been addressing issues around women of color and maybe some other predecessor organizations as well that you might be aware of that are doing this work.
Right. So, I think that, well, there are other organizations that are doing work around women. In terms of women of color in particularly, I think there's, well, you know, of course, Pipeline, Women's Pipeline for Change, but She the People is specifically focused on women of color, which is what was really inspirational to us. There are a few others out there, but and I think with the young lady coming from what is that? Inspire. I had that on my.
Yes.
They're really focused on also on young women.
Project as well, yeah.
But I think specifically around women of color, I think there are opportunities there. And so, you know, I think we have unique challenge. We have challenges that are different. Let's just face it, than our white counterparts. And I think more needs to be done around that. So, and we're hoping to give us that you know, broader coalition to really address them, and we'll learn and move forward.
And I think what's really, you know, very powerful is that you have the organizations like Amplify and Delta and, you know, the Highland Pond, Wampumbo Tribe, you know, that are Women's Pipeline that are doing really, really strong work, as well as other organizations. And one of the things we're saying, if they're doing such good work, that, you know, coming together, we can even do better work because we have the passion, we have the tools, we have the ideas, we have the network. And so how much more powerful will it be coming together and also bringing the community together? And again, I think that this particular forum is well timed because, again, there's an urgency in reference to people's interest in this. People are saying we're really excited to attend this particular forum. Very, very excited. So I think at the end of the day, I know we're going to make a difference, and hopefully this will not be the only forum that we will have.
I would love
at
to
all.
see like new members, like something maybe annually for new members, or maybe once you guys get there, something quarterly so new members can come in, um, maybe pay some dues, help out with the cause a little bit. I did just click the link for city.ly backslash our power, and the link is broken.
Oh, I'm
And so I want
sorry.
to make sure we get that out to the people so
Yes.
that
Yeah.
they can go ahead and, because I'm
Yep. I
excited. This sounds
finished.
like everything that I believe that we need, and not just not with just like Black women. And you guys said specifically the focus is on Black and Latinx women, but for all women of color. And so I'm wondering two things. So the first thing I'm wondering is how many, I guess, like, it's for all women. What if you're not Black? What are you? Like, I feel like we have to say Latinos because we've categorized them for so long
Yeah.
that they are now brainwashed to think that I am something other than a Black.
I mean,
And
it's
I say
really
that with like
interesting is
all respect, but at the end of the day, if you have melanin in if your daddy if you had one drop, that's what the deed said. The deed said if you had one drop of blood, you were Black. So why are we
well,
categorizing everybody else? If you have one drop of blood, you're Black. Period.
that's true.
Um,
It's really very interesting, sort of how, we've been looking at this in reference to women of color. And, that term, women of color, is a contested term. Some people love it, some people don't. But one thing we can say, if we're thinking about women of color, at least this is my conception, is that we're talking about women who have been marginalized, women who have been left out, women who have been stereotyped, women who, in many ways, have not been taken seriously in terms of their potential. We're really wanting to uplift those women. We want to uplift them in reference to their health, their well-being, their opportunities in education, their opportunities in terms of employment, that they're able to raise their children in a way that they would like to be able to raise their children. We want to make sure that they have what any woman deserves to have. And that is, health and happiness and security, as well as the ability to be able to participate in the democratic process and participate in a way in which she is well informed and she's making decisions in reference to, where she wants to put her vote and where she wants to put her energy, and her commitment.
and I
That's critically important for us.
go
I
ahead,
just want to
Celie.
say,
I'm sorry.
we're clear about who we are. We identify as Black, African descent, Latina, Hispanic, non-white, Asian, Middle Eastern, Native American, or Indigenous descent. So we actually just want to make sure that folks recognizes that that's who we are at MAWOCC. We do. You mentioned memberships. We do have memberships. It's free at this point. MAWOCC.com is our website where we have a contact us, very easy to contact us via our website, MAWOCC.com. And we're a statewide organization with members across the Commonwealth right now. So love the energy you just gave about, pitching in and volunteering, because we all really need to pitch in to do this work. And because as Lori has said several times, and how timely it really is right now in our worlds today.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I want to raise, just in terms of the Center for Women in Politics and Public Policy, we do have a gender leadership and public policy master's certificate program. And that particular program, again, will help. We have over 800 alumni. And many of those individuals are leaders in both the government and the nonprofit sector. We also have individuals who are, public officials. So, we want to attract more and more, and we have a good number already, women of color. And as a director of the center that is an African American woman, I am, truly committed to making sure that, when we're teaching women, and some of our women are young, and some of our women are midlife, and some of them are older, that we're helping them to see the world through an intersectional lens. We want to make sure that they're seeing, politics and public policy as it relates to race, ethnicity, and gender and other types of identities. It's really important. I think that it's really exciting that Celia and I were able to come together and join forces because along with our partners, because we see the strength in all the work that we do together.
I can hear you. Tayla. There we go.
Can't hear nobody.
I can.
Hello.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So what I was saying was we're going to go ahead and get all of those links for you. So the links for the membership, the links for the registration, all the links that you need from today's conversation, we will get that to you. It will be added to this particular program underneath. But can you just spell out for the membership?
For the membership to MAWOCC?
Yes.
Oh, sure. So, as I said, we do our members ship. We do not have a membership fee. So it is free. You do have to complete an application, and you do need to identify as a woman of color. And we ask you to give us information on. We do work. Our mission is dedicated to eradicating the racial inequities that exist for women of color. That is created by institutional, structural, interpersonal, internalized racism, and we do our work under 5 platforms: politics and civic leadership, health and wellness, economic power and sustainability, education justice, and criminal justice reform. So we want to get, when we complete our membership application, we want to get an area, and if you want to help with events or coordinations or write-in, whatever, we ask you for areas in which you're interested in helping us with, and that's very important for us to get that, and then we contact you. We generally have regional meetings. We will have our next series of regional meetings in November. We do have one in Eastern that represents Eastern, Central, and we'll have one in Western. We'll get it up on our Facebook so that we stay connected, and then work on these initiatives. So we've got a team working on this. We've got a forum coming up in October around voter suppression. We're working on that specifically with the league to be more focused and about that. We have several things coming up that we're working on. So we certainly need the volunteer help. When you contact us via website, we'll get you out a membership application form. So if you MAWOCC.com,
and what is that website?
It's MAWOCC.com, M-A for Massachusetts, WOCC.com. And there's contact us link. Just click on that and it comes directly to our team.
I got that. So the Massachusetts Women of Color Coalition, MAWOCC.com. And I'm going to go ahead and post that for you. And is the link on here for you to be able to connect to the event?
So there is a Facebook, the website is connected with our Facebook page. So if you click on our Facebook page, there's a registration link there as well. And I will get you the link, Taylor, that you can add to your show.
Thank you. Because I want to make sure that people show up. Like, I want to make sure they have what they need for them to show up, to be engaged, to be involved, and to be the voice of change for the things that we don't just complain about, but have solutions for. Like, a lot of the solutions to the problems are right here within our own community, but nobody asks us any questions, and they just do what they want to do. And then, the policy ends up trickling down to not working because we were never at the table to tell you that this doesn't work in real life. And so I'm more than excited to be a part of this conversation and to present this to the listeners that, you don't have to stand by idly waiting for somebody to save you, baby. Like, this is the boat and the paddle. Let's go. Like, we can row one together.
Yes, absolutely. Tayla, Lori and I, so part of a coalition on what we're calling parity on boards, which is a legislation that we testified last fall on it. And it's really um, gender parity on boards and commissions. We pushed to get the language of women of color inserted into that. And it's made it through the committee, and it's now in the Ways and Means that we are get it out to become a law, and that would be the second in the country, I think, to have this law. So,
and I think I want to highlight that, you know, our involvement as women of color in the work field.
Lori, we lost you. Oh, we lost Lori. Can you hear me, Tayla? Can't hear you.
Technical difficulties. We are having what is
There
it?
we
A
go.
Teddy Riley baby face issue going on right now. What I would really like is I'm traveling for family reasons, and upon my return next Tuesday, I would really like to have you two in studio. We can be masked up. We'll keep our 6 feet, but I would really like to be a part to know what happened at the event and what the conversation was and what how are we moving forward? Like, what is it that was brought up? And I guess like my next question, because we are, I don't know how much time you have, because I will keep you till 1 if you let me. But as far as we're going to have a discussion, and this discussion is going to be all of us and what, as a collective, the issues are. What if a woman comes and she wants to discuss something that's like really personal to her, and there's only like one other person that may relate to it and want to jump on board? Will they be like, I don't want to say like breakout sessions, but will there be breakout coalitions for smaller, like, let's say for instance, 100 women show up, but only 2 of them have special needs children. And so the whole of the collective doesn't believe that we should make like special education one of the main things that will there be like a break-off coalition that does add something else to the table?
All right. So for us, for MAWOCC, as long as if it is under one of our platforms, we will certainly, regardless of whether we have 2, 3, 4, 10, 20 people, that is an avenue that we can take up, and we have the format to be able to do that. If it's outside of the 5 platforms, then we generally, just because from capacity perspective on our areas of focus, those 5 platforms are fairly huge. And we do not have all the capacity right now. We're still in our build-in grassroots phase. We're really trying to stick to that. But if another organization, say it's maybe around domestic violence, that's not an area that we're focusing on. But if someone else is focusing on in our coalition of organizations, we'd hope that they'd take that on, and we'd certainly try to support that as way we can. But I just want to be mindful that I know that for MAWOCC, our platforms are huge. So if it falls under any one of those and they're not a top priority out of that event, we will absolutely be able to take that on and move forward under that platform for those areas of concerns. And I can tell you, as a mom with a child who has a special needs, that's dear and near to my heart. So I love to share my lessons along the way that I've learned with her. She's doing wonderful right now and doing well in college. I love to share that journey too with folks. So, which is what we need to do.
I am so glad we covered that, and I didn't even know that. So look at God. Latoya Gale said that she just jumped on late, and she wants to know where the information is going to be posted. It's currently on Facebook, but we are going to. I will update the link on each one on YouTube, on Facebook, as well as on LinkedIn. And so even Latoya, if I have to text it to you, you will get it, boo.
Yes.
Yeah. With that being said, as far as, can we take a moment and have a conversation outside of the event about politics? Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. Did we lose? Did we lose my boo? Is she no longer on the call?
Lori, are you still on?
Lori, are you still on?
Did we lose Lori?
Did we lose Lori?
We did lose Lori, but we're gonna hold on. We're gonna bring Lori back.
Okay.
This is real life, y'all. This is real life.
Hello?
Lori, we got you back. Okay. So
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know if I hit something incorrectly or
no worries.
what happened.
Latoya, I actually need you to text me because there's like we need to connect Latoya. So text me and I'll make sure you get the information. Latoya is an educator. She's also I forgot that what is it? ma.schools.info. I forgot the website. Post it, Latoya, so those that are listening can get some information.
Oh,
Latoya created a website for parents to figure out Boston public school system. Like the website's absolutely dope. And so she is an asset to the team. I'm going to make sure I text it directly to her so she can be a part of the conversation as well. But what I was saying previously was I would like for you guys to come in studio. Like I need you guys to come in studio when this takes place. And I would even like to take it further. So maybe monthly or quarterly, we can update for those that aren't a part of the coalition can still have information. And, you know, first time you give them a little taste and they don't take it all the way. You know, you just got to keep force feeding them. I want you to be active, baby, and engaged in the process. And so that it's not just a complaint of, I can't believe this is happening to me, because you were actually at the table and your voice was actually heard. And so Latoya Gale's Boston School Finder is the name of her website. So politics that I would like to speak on that doesn't necessarily pertain to this event is our possible future vice president. I am interested as women, Black women in the political arena, in the educational space, just knowing what you know of the blue ticket. I just want to talk about the blue ticket for a moment and what we know of the history of the blue ticket. Like, if I can be transparent, the blue ticket bubble fill is not easy for me. And it's not easy for me because I read and I know history and I educate myself. And a lot of nice words, big words put together don't turn me on. And so when I think about what's, you know, the alternative, like it's always like, oh, but look at the alternative. I'm not comfortable with the blue ticket to the point where I want to just write myself in for all spaces.
That's right. That's right. And we have to get more and more involved, and that means that we have to be trained, we have to be educated, we have to be informed, all of those kinds of things. And I think MAWOCC does a good job, a really good job of doing that. I'm in awe of MAWOCC, and that's one of the reasons that we at UMass wanted to connect with them. And we also want to. So we have individuals from our program. There's a woman in our program who is now on the city council. In Edwards, we have another woman, and she was the first Latina woman. We have another woman who is all the way out in Ohio. She was one of the first women of color in her elected office. So I think that you're absolutely right. We have to be in there. We cannot take no for an answer. We cannot be just the only ones in office. We need a critical mass. Right now, we're working on a project where we can try to increase the number of women of color who are in elected office. And what we're saying is, we want the women of color who are cleaning houses. We want the women of color who are behind. She's a clerk's desk, and she's working at Walmart. Because at the end of the day, these are the women who represent our communities. These are the day-to-day women, as well as other women who are very highly educated. But it seems to us that we get one, and everybody's sort of like, oh, and that's people don't even want to accept the one. We talk about Kamala Harris and all the slack she's already taken.
So I can't hear you, Tayla.
I can't hear you, Tayla.
Okay, I'm trying to mute myself so we don't have an echo here. So one of the things that I posted when adding this event online was, since 1972, fewer than 120 women of color have ran for elected office at municipal, county, state levels across Massachusetts. Additionally, relatively few women of color have been appointed to high-level positions in government despite demonstrating leadership and significant contributions to their communities. Why are we still in? I talk about this all of the time because it annoys me. One of my mentors, Monica Cost out of Boston, is in 2008 got an award for the first Black broker, a commercial broker in Massachusetts. Like, this is 2008, and I'm like, how are we still hitting first? Like, how are we still the first of something? And we've been here forever. Like, we are here.
Well,
Right.
I want to sort of say a little bit about that, and I'm sure Sheila has a lot to say about that too. One of the things that we did some years back with the Women's Pipeline for Change is we took the time to interview women who were running for office, women of color who were running for office, as well as women of color who were in office, and we took the time to highlight, what were some of the barriers. And so one of the things I want to say, the short answer is racism and sexism, but that doesn't actually get you to the specifics. It costs money to run for office. That's one thing. You also have to have a lot of key networks to run for office. You also have to have, time and opportunity. You also have to have time for voice. So one of the things that we took the time to was to identify all of the barriers. Some of these barriers were, around issues such as, child care, personal barriers, and then some of the barriers were much more structural in terms of, having the entree into the individuals who can help to influence your campaign. And so I think that, all of these, and then it's also just get out public perceptions as to who is fit to run for office. I mean, I think that's one of the things that's really, really key, is that there's some people who think, women of color should not be running for office, or once they run for office, they will not be effective leaders. And I think that, these kinds of perceptions, need to be broken down as well. And that the other thing they say is that, women in general, you have to ask them several times before they'll agree to run for office. Whereas with men, they'll run for office, even if they're not prepared and they're not ready. So I think that, when we think about women in general and the barriers to women of color running for office, we just take that, you add to that being a woman of color in terms of, the economic and social barriers as well as the perception, you're in much worse shape.
Right.
Maybe some have some other thoughts on it as well.
All right. So I just want to jump in for a little bit. Can you hear me, Taylor?
I can hear you
Right.
perfectly.
So having been one of those first, okay, as the first registrar of motor vehicles for the Commonwealth, right? I certainly feel as though, I mean, and so now I was registrar in 2015 of an agency, a state, one of the largest state agencies in the Commonwealth, and has been around for, I think, in the early 1900s. So there are different things in answering your question in terms of why do we do that and everybody thinks, okay, we've arrived. There needs to be a consistent focus on holding people accountable when people come into office, when things are a priority for us. So if you look at how maybe the government looked under Governor Patrick, it certainly looks different today in terms of who's sitting in the cabinet seats, okay? They control who are in senior level positions for appointment. appointments. We're going to get into appointments and elected officials. It's very important that we have a multi-pronged approach to deal with this issue. Structures and systems were not developed for us. So what does that mean? It means we have tools to hold people accountable, and be vigilant and not relent and not giving up. Okay? So there are multiple ways we need to look at this. First of all, we need to look at not only elective, but appointed positions are very powerful positions that run agencies in any state and local government. And then you have boards and commissions, okay? Makes all these decisions in our communities. So we need to have and this is what I have to share with you. That's what MAWOCC strategy is. We have a multi-pronged approach about how we need to attack this issue. Notwithstanding the elected, path where yes, there's that cost that Lori's talking about that's associated with it. But there's several ways that we need to look at this. What did it look like before? Have we lost ground? Where have we lost ground? And what's our action plans to hold people accountable, to move forward so that more of these seats look like us? Because once that happens, then we can then start making those changes that are important to our community.
For me,
I'm sorry, I'm passionate.
No, thank you. I love it, Auntie. You better come for them.
That's right. And I think the thing that's really, I think one of the things that, that Celia is really highlighting also is the fact that when you get into office and you're in an institution that is still an institution that, these institutions are all racist. And I'm just going to say it on the line. They're racist institutions. And so you can't expect, a woman of color to walk into those institutions and be, be embraced in any kind of way. So there's a constant, battle. There's a constant, stresses on us every day. We're trying to represent, our constituents. And at the same time, we're also battling the structures and the systems within. And that's a lot on us.
And you have to perform on top of that and make sure you do. We do not have any outs. We've got to make sure to. So imagine if we didn't have these structures around us when we're getting these positions. There's no telling. That's why we're not in those situations. So we have to keep pushing. I mean,
and I can't tell you how many times that MAWA and just the women of color, we uplift each other all the time. We're there to support each other as we move forward and do the work that we're trying to do. If we didn't have our sisterhood, we would not be able to, in many instances, withstand the pressures. I think right now we're just being real about, what it's like to be in leadership positions, appointed positions, elected officials, and, broadly speaking, in other kinds of leadership positions as well. And, we have to, hold each other up and support each other, but we also have to continue, as Celia, has done, and many of us have done, challenge the status quo to say we do make a difference.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to let up.
Exactly.
Until things change.
So, as of now, are there any partnerships, for lack of a better word, are there any partnerships with the Black and Latino caucus? Are there any conversations being had with individual elected and appointed officials that, automatically are on our side, and then allies? Because we got a lot of white men that love them some black women. And so I'm going to need you to love us financially, and I'm going to need for you to love us politically when you vote. And so have those allies been identified, and have everyone been signed into process and at the starting line with us?
So we definitely reached out to the Black and Latino Legislative Caucus. They were gracious. We had a meeting with them in October, and Lori was a part of that meeting too. It's important for them to know about our partnership. And also, we also talked with them about the parity on board bill, because we really needed to get their support. And I have to say, I felt walking away from that meeting that we felt that they were supportive to the work that we were doing. You know, Liz Miranda is going to be part of our panel. She was on the call that day, and she's been wonderful. We've been working with her on different. I know one of the bills she was trying to pass, it didn't pass, but we supported her on that. It made sense for us from an organization standpoint. So, short answer is we are making those outreach, because we've always felt that, number one, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, but we want to be deliberate about our focus, because our focus needs to be about us and our communities of color. And where it makes sense, we will partner with other organizations. We know we cannot do this alone. We cannot do this work alone. We need partners, but there needs to be an aligned with our mission and ultimately where we're headed. But so we're building. We're a young organization. Lori's organization is 25 years old this year, by the way, that we're celebrating. In May, 5th year. But you know, our founding members, we've been around for a while. So, and we've been in high CEO level positions in the public as well as nonprofit sector. So we've got a lot of experience, a lot of lessons learned that we're trying to make sure we educate and inspire all our women, especially women of color. That's our focus. Able to take empower them and coach them. We're in the process of building a mentorship model right now. But anybody that's affiliated with us, we're a phone call away. Something comes up, everybody knows they can call me, and I will help, because you know what, we need to make, as Lori said, it is so important that we lift each other up and we support each other and we share our experiences so that we can help lift each other up. It's very important to us. Very, very important. This is what partnership has been so refreshing, and it's been wonderful working with her.
And the other thing I wanted to mention quickly, we also have the Massachusetts Women's Legislative Caucus, and also the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women. And what I would say is that some of the women of color who are part of the Black and Latino caucus, many of them are also part of the Massachusetts Women Legislative Caucus. So we tap both caucuses to get this work done. And then the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women, the chair of the commission is a African American woman, and there's other commissioners as well. So, you know, we can move forward with all those bodies that interact with the state, the under the state house, and make our ask and our concerns known. I think it's really important that, you know, we reach out to as many of these entities and the advocacy organizations as well as the state bodies and you know, the community as well. And I think if we put all that together, we have a winning model, an absolute winning model. That is not going to just be a model, but it's going to be a reality. And then, you know, as I listen to Celia and I listen to, you know, all the passion and the leadership that she brings to Mainwire, as well as her real life experience in terms of, you know, being a registrar. I mean, that also brings credibility to the work. You know, this is not something that, you know, she's talking about that she's sort of, you know, this is pie in the sky. She's experienced being, you know, a leader in the public sector. And, you know, we come together to do all of this work to make a difference.
So
And I have
is an ignorant question, right? So my ignorant question is how, like, when you look at the suffrage movement and then you look at like a Harvey Milk movement, how is it that the alphabet, the LG, I don't want to butcher it, how have the queer folk been able to get their agenda pushed when we as Black women are still asking for the same pay? Like, not even asking, we're still begging to, like, I'm equal, like, see me equally. And I'm just wondering, like, it's a real question. I may have framed it incorrectly. It wasn't politically correctly framed, but I want to know, how was the queer movement able to be Like it's injected everywhere. Television, food, and
Well,
like,
can I say one thing? Can I say one thing? I have this conversation, I have this conversation with my partner all the time. And, one of the things I said, is that, not that there are not LGBTQ people in communities of color. So we know there are, and in many ways, they have a difficult time of it because they're not quite clear, where they fit and where they fit anywhere. Those are the experiences that they had. So I want to preface it by saying that. But we know that, in terms of the LGBTQ movement, there are lots of there were white men as part of that movement. And that makes a difference, that they're white and and there were men. And if we're comparing that to women of color, there's a difference there. I do not believe in any way we have an oppression Olympics. I won't go there. But I will say that, we as, women of color, particularly black women and Latino women, and I would say indigenous, but let me just say women of color, we in society, they have they have put us at the lower rung. That's not where I belong. That's not where I fit, and that's no place that I will ever agree to take. But in reality, that is where they place us. So when you're the most marginalized by virtue of your race, your ethnicity, your gender, and some of your other social identities, then of course you are going to be challenged. And I will say that in terms of women of color who are LGBTQ, they have multiple challenges that are, extremely high. So I will, I would at that point say that, they as a group of women are, marginalized as are we. We are women of color together, and we bring all of our identities together, and we need to work for the common good of women of color, regardless of, our background.
thank you for that. Thank you for that. So I just want to remind you all. So we are currently speaking about standing in our power. The Massachusetts Women of Color Coalition and the UMass Boston Center for Women in Politics and Public Policy had partnered together for the Standing in Our Power Women of Color Leading Change. And so if you are Black, if you are Latino, if you are Indian, if you have melanin in your skin, if you are Native American, if you are Asian, if you consider yourself a woman of color, the civic engagement in voting form is to educate, inspire, and activate yourself. All right? So to activate you in order to be an active being in society, for you to speak on your heart, and there will be a town hall where you can be honest about all of the issues and all of the problems and all of the solutions that you can suggest to your elected officials. This is the beginning of the civil rights. This is a different kind of civil rights. So for me, I am viewing this as the grassroots of the female civil rights. So we are in our hopefully final stage of the women's suffrage leading black women leading this time, and igniting civic engagement and bringing about positive change for communities of color. And so this is an important, more than a conversation, because I know that you are tired of going to meetings about meetings that talk about meetings that already happened and plan meetings to happen in the future. So I'm tired, you're tired. This has nothing to do with meeting about meetings. This is actually the grassroots of what it's going to look like politically for women of color on the policy side. And so if any of that excites you, hits any of your erogenous zones, it should, because we are tired of being second-class citizens, being paid like second-class citizens, being treated like second-class citizens, and being thought of when it comes to the fact that there are men dictating and determining your sex life, your abortions, your birth control. If that alone doesn't make you mad, then baby, there's nothing else I could tell you. Because I know when I see everybody who's standing behind the table waiting on a pen, and one of them look like they have a pom-pom to be excited about. And I meant that at home, not even for themselves. I am Taylor Andre. You woke up with Taylor Andre. Unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. Celia Blue, I want to thank you. Lori, thank you. Are there any final words that you want to share with the listeners?
My final word is that, first of all, Taylor, thank you so much for having us on the show. And we do look forward to coming back with you to talk about, the event and how things are going, and that continuous dialogue, which I think is so very important right now for us to be having. And I just want to encourage folks, we have a morning session and an afternoon session. Hope you can join both, and especially our policy action plan development day on the 26th. That's where, we'll really need to buckle down and identify those priorities for what we learned and have an agenda to move forward collectively. And we hope that you will join us. And I just want to mention our strategic partners: Women's Pipeline for Change, Mass Voter Table, Mass Vote, the Herring Palm Wampanoag Tribe, Boston Alumni Delta, the Boston chapter, and Amplify Latinx as well for their support. And I'll turn it over to Lori.
Lori, we still got you? Oh, well, tell Lori that she is missed, and I would love, I definitely want to fix this technology issue so we can have it as clear as possible and people can hear you loud, because the voices need to be heard. Celia, I thank you so much for your time. We have come to the top of the hour. I am Taylor Andre. Waking Up with Taylor Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. Don't forget to get your book, Finally Home, the step-by-step guide for people preparing for home ownership. You don't have to be saved up. You don't have to have your credit right. This is for you preparing. If you thought about firing your landlord, if you wondered whether or not you could afford a home, if you know your credit messed up but you need a little bit of help, the book is for you. So all of the conversations that we do not have at dinner time, all of the conversations our parents didn't have the wherewithal to teach us, that is what is in those 70 pages. It's a small book. You can finish it in a day. I promise you. Take it to the beach. You'll be all done and empowered to fix your credit with the knowledge you need to be able to implement fixing your credit, as well as whether it's preparing for tomorrow or preparing for 10 years. You will be prepared and fully informed to make informed decisions on purchasing a home that is best for you. TaylaAndre.com for all of the Taylor Andre paraphernalia, to old shows, t-shirts, the book, or if you just want to hire me as your real estate agent, as well as what was the other thing I was? Oh, please don't forget to download Spark FM online. If you have an iPhone, hold on, let's shut that off. If you have an iPhone, if you have an Android, the app is for you. It is ready, set, go. This is Spark FM. I'm super excited. Happy Motivational Monday. Oh, one of the things that I wanted to tell you is, today is the day that the Lord hath made. I won't be here tomorrow or for another week. And the reason why I am leaving is because I am going to spend time with my family as we celebrate the life of my auntie that is no longer here. And so I have made the conscious decision that I am not in mourning. It is mourning, but I am not in mourning. I am in celebration. And I am in celebration of my T. I call her T, auntie, for T's life, like her joy, her happiness, her laughter, her, tenacity. I love everything about my auntie. And I acknowledge that I took for granted the strong, beautiful, powerful woman that she was while she was here. And when I tell you, self-realization and self-actuality, to actually examine thyself is probably one of the hardest things that you'll ever do as a human, is to have those hard conversations with yourself, be honest with yourself about whatever. And I'm going to celebrate her life. And so that's what I will be doing for the next week while I am not live. But if we do put on a show, it won't be in the vein of radio. So just please keep it locked. Everything Taylor Andre, social media. I'll probably go live off IG or Snap or one at TikTok. I do all those things now. The kids got me hip. And so please give your not even your elders, because she wasn't even an elder yet. My auntie was young. My auntie was young. She was gorgeous. She was an amazing soul. And she definitely has gone too soon. But like, call your grandmother, call your auntie, call your cousin, like call somebody today whom you have a grudge with, somebody that you're angry with, someone that got on your last nerves, and or think to yourself, like, what happens if this person is not here tomorrow? Fix that. Love that. Miss that. Give flowers while they're here, because you don't know when God, the universe, whatever, the Almighty, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Allah is going to call them home. So give them their flowers while they're still living, while they're still breathing. Appreciate the breath that you have in your own lungs. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I hope you have an amazing day. Mwah.